Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
'Cause they got the beat, the campus beat, the campus beat. Yeah, the campus beat.
Dan and Amy, good morning. University of North Carolina, the Tar Heels. They may miss the tournament this year.
Oh, no.
Shocking. Yeah, shocking. Dean Smith spinning in his grave. North Carolina, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. The trustees there at the university moved to create a school of civic life and leadership to expand discourse on campus, to try to live up to the ideal of a college or university to be a free marketplace of ideas in a way that most colleges are woefully not doing.
Moving in the opposite direction.
At record speed. Well, this is not without controversy. Free marketplace of ideas, the horror. Somebody on campus with an opinion I disagree with, that cannot be tolerated. And I'm not just talking about the professorate. I'm talking about accreditation agencies. The accreditation agency called the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, which accredits North Carolina, is making threats about their accreditation over this creation of the new School for Civic Life and Leadership. Belle Whelan said that North Carolina will be getting a letter from her agency. Oh, boy.
Boy, you're going to hear from me.
We're waiting for them to explain this school, because that's kind of not the way we do business. We? You have a mouse in your pocket? We're talking about North Carolina. Who are you? She went on, we're going to either get them to change it or the institution will be on warning. She also brought in slides at this commission meeting where she was saber-rattling to illustrate what a board member is not, including the phrase solver of all problems, one who runs the institution. The role of board members should be eyes in, hands off. Well, that drew a response from a number of former Department of Education officials, including from our friend Bob Eitel. And they said this about Miss Whalen's pronouncement. She proposes for you the role of mere spectators at the university entrusted by the legislature and North Carolina law to your stewardship. We urge you to reject this false and unacceptable understanding of board governance, which, if followed, will allow no genuine reform or board leadership at our nation's public universities. As the sole constituency on campus with a fiduciary duty to the public, not only is your board's active engagement in university governance permissible, it is in fact your duty. And they also note about this accreditation outfit, and we've talked about this at the high school level too, K through 12 level too, these accreditation outfits that are as Marxist as the universities or the schools themselves. They write, we also note your accreditor has a well-documented history of arbitrary and ideological intrusions into proper university governance. Your accreditor's actions have led the state of Florida to effectively mandate by law that all public universities in the state end their association with this accreditation agency. So serious have been the abuses of power, that we anticipate efforts to terminate your agency's status as a department-recognized accreditor in a future administration. Well, that would be welcome. That's going to take a Republican president and a Republican Secretary of Education, appointed Secretary of Education as well. But that's what's going on. Even when you have a board or university leadership generally that moves in the direction of trying to expand the parameters of thought and debate on campus, then here come the accreditors over the top to threaten your existence. That's how entrenched the left has now been able to entrench themselves. This is how deep the left has been able to entrench themselves now in university. So it's going to take a lot of political courage from university leadership to even slightly reverse the situation on campus. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Matthew Spalding, Vice President of Hillsdale College and Dean of its Van Andel Graduate School of Government in Washington. Matthew Spalding, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you this morning.
How about that North Carolina story?
That's actually a great story and well described. I think what we're seeing going on here, both in North Carolina, Florida, where I'm on a board of a college, and I think around the nation, is a shift. We're no longer talking about the old liberal professor in the department and complaining about the left wing department here or there. This is more of an administrative executive claim to being able to rule these universities. All the things you've talked about, accreditation. I would add the admissions process, the hiring process. These things go well beyond curriculum and the old-fashioned things we maybe associate with the academy being liberal. This is not just a wacky professor. The assumption here is the modern progressive left, which is getting more modern and more progressive day by day, really runs the place, rules the place. How dare a board, especially at a public university, think they could actually change its direction and bring it back to this old-fashioned notion of university being a place where you had debates and discussion and deliberation and read books and things like that. So I think this is a change in what's going on in the academy and what's going on in North Carolina, what we're trying to do in Florida. All these things are great things for trying to get the university at least back to a modicum of balance so that students hear a debate across the board rather than merely one view, which is being enforced before they even get to the classroom.
So, the layers of gatekeepers that you've just described, the admissions, the hiring, and then the accreditation agencies, sometimes many times the board of trustees as well. So, it prompts revisiting this question that a lot of people have been trying to answer, and some are answering it in different ways. Outside of a state of Florida where Ron DeSantis just says, and the Florida State Legislature just says, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to impose it by state law to get back to the as you were saying, the promise that was made of these public universities to their constituents long ago. Is the situation now such that, other than one-offs like a state of Florida, the play is University of Austin? The play is not North Carolina. You're not going. There are just too many layers to wade through. There are too many blockades to reinfusing campus with intellectual diversity to actually accomplish this. Other than in one-off situations, a courageous board at North Carolina, Ron DeSantis in Florida, you have to try to stand up more Hillsdales, like the folks that are driving University of Austin are trying to do.
Right. No, I think in the immediate sense, you're right. These seem to be a bunch of one-offs here and there. Having said that, I think movement has to start someplace. Think of it in more in terms of a market. What might start in Florida might get picked up by Texas or other red states, and you've got a movement going. I think the frustration with the academy has been building probably for decades. It's gotten worse in recent years, such that there is today a huge demand coming from students. I mean, the admissions at Hillsdale College, for instance, are off the charts. Our yield is very high when we offer students the opportunity to go there. The demand in K through 12 schools that are classical. The desire for these new schools is very powerful, and there's a lot of money now going to higher education in a way that it wasn't before. So the possibility of making change, I think, is very high. Does it start slowly? Does it start in a few places? Absolutely. I think the amazing thing here is seeing where it's being picked up all of a sudden here and there. I think that'll start happening faster as people see the possibility of actually doing these things. A board being able to go in and change an institution. Starting new institutions within colleges. That's been going on for some time here or there. I think it's taking off and becoming more rapid. starting a new college, which is extremely difficult. That's now a possibility in a way that I think it wasn't in the past. I think we'll see some smaller, mid-sized schools here and there, and private schools, getting their acts together and realizing there's actually a market for students.
And so
the problem is that a lot of these mechanisms we just described are mechanisms of what we in business would call monopolies.
right.
As soon as you start breaking down a monopoly, when there is a market for an alternative, you start seeing change within an economy. And I think that's what we're starting to see in higher education.
So what's the progression? Is DeSantis the model? Ban DEI training in government agencies, including public universities, and then move to get boards, trustees appointed to the boards of these colleges that are going to push the colleges in the direction of free and open inquiry. Is that essentially the two-step that governors in other states that are sensible should follow?
Well, I think in general, Governor DeSantis really is the model. He has a keen understanding of this, and he knows how to govern, which is a rare combination nowadays. Having said that, I remind every governor and legislature when I go around and talk to them that education, K through 12 education and higher education, is a unique responsibility, a constitutional responsibility of legislatures and governors. Every legislature and every governor has the power to do this if they so choose to. These are public institutions are controlled by the legislatures and the governors of their states and have a responsibility to the people that elected them. They're paid for by the taxpayers of the state. I think for too long we have assumed that higher education is just going its merry way. It's kind of lefty, but nothing we can do about it. But it's gotten to a point where it is now so objectionable in how it operates, how it runs, what it's doing to students, that really adult leadership is needed in a way that it was not before. Now we're talking about the administration of these colleges. That is particularly a responsibility of those who govern those colleges. And boards are appointed by governors. Governors are acting on laws passed by states. They have a responsibility to do that. So yes, on the one hand, he's the model right now, Governor DeSantis. But there are other states and other governors who well could do different things. There are amazing a number of possibilities here, given the nature of the academy and where it's gotten. So I think we're really seeing the start of hopefully a groundswell to make some of these changes, to try the best we can to get some sense of what we would naturally call good diversity of opinions in front of these students, so they can either have at least have a fighting chance to get educated, which is the real problem. All this is just stultifying for these students who thought they were going to college for the gaining of knowledge, or instead going there and merely learning an ideological line, and that's just terrible and destructive to their whole education.
He is Matthew Spalding, VP of Hillsdale College and Dean of its Van Andel Graduate School of Government in Washington. Matthew Spalding, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great being with you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Folks, when shopping for a home mortgage, how much is great service, low closing costs, and competitive interest rates worth to you? At Townstone Financial, it's priceless. Hi, Barry Sterner, founder of Townstone Financial. Let's hear about the Townstone experience from one of our customers.
My experience with Zach and Townstone was unbelievable. It was stress-free. That's like unheard of when purchasing a home. He informed me in the